All right, so we're diving into Basque Waist wedding dresses today.
Sounds romantic.
Yeah, you sent over this blog post from Darianna Bridal and Tuxedo,
Oh, yeah, they're great.
Pennsylvania, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wedding attire specialist, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's got me thinking,
Oh,
is it really all princess dreams and fairy tale vibes? Like, come on.
well, there's that for sure.
And is this style is universally flattering, as they say?
That's what we're here to figure out.
Exactly. So let's break it all down.
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so they define a Basque waist as, and I'm quoting here, a fitted bodice with a drop waist that forms a V or U shape below the natural waistline.
Right, right.
But that doesn't really tell us why it's so popular.
No, it doesn't.
What's the big deal?
Well, it's all about that dip below the natural waistline.
Oh, okay.
It can actually make your legs look longer
Really?
or balance out wider hips.
Interesting.
Yeah, it depends on how it's cut and, the person's body.
So it's all about tricking the eye.
Exactly. It's where the eye is drawn to.
Okay, but they also claim it's flattering on, like pretty much everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Petite, hourglass, pear-shaped,
Mm-hmm.
even athletic builds.
Yeah, they make some big claims.
Isn't that a bit of a stretch?
Well, it's true that there's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to fashion.
Right, of course.
But the Basque waist does have a lot of potential for different body types.
Okay, so how so?
Well, like we said, it can elongate a shorter torso.
Mm-hmm.
It can really highlight an hourglass figure if you have one.
Right.
But it's about finding the right fit and proportions.
That makes sense.
And that's where a good bridal consultant comes in.
Oh, so it's not magic.
No, not magic.
It's about knowing how the design works.
Exactly, understanding how it interacts with the body.
That's actually helpful even if you're not wedding dress shopping.
Absolutely.
Just knowing a little bit about fashion design can make anyone a more confident shopper.
I agree with that.
Okay, so let's get into the history. The blog says the Basque waist goes way back to the Victorian era. Think like those tightly laced bodices in old paintings.
Yeah, that's the silhouette we're talking about.
So it's not just a princess thing.
No, not at all.
It's got some serious history behind it.
Definitely.
And speaking of history, they mention all these fancy fabrics.
Oh, yeah.
Satin, silk, velvet for the old school versions,
Makes sense.
and then modern equivalents like Mikado, Shantung, Dupioni.
Fancy.
I know, right? Some of these names sound so luxurious.
Well, they do have a luxurious feel, don't they?
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
What is it?
Mikado, for example,
Mm-hmm.
it's actually a type of weave,
Oh.
not a specific fiber.
Huh. I didn't know that.
It gives that structured look to some Basque waists.
So like not a drapey silk?
Right, it's more sculpted.
That's fascinating.
It's not just the material, it's
Right.
how it's woven and used.
To create that specific effect.
Right.
I guess that's what gives it that timeless quality.
You could say that.
But is it really about good design? Or are we just romanticizing the past?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit of both, honestly.
Okay.
A truly timeless garment goes beyond trends.
Right.
And the Basque waist does that.
It's been around forever.
It's been reinterpreted over and over through different fashion eras.
And it still works.
Yeah, that core silhouette remains appealing.
Speaking of reinterpretation,
Yeah.
they bring up Princess Diana's wedding dress,
Yeah.
which apparently had a subtle Basque waist.
It did.
And didn't that dress basically spark a whole trend?
It had a huge impact on bridal fashion, that's for sure.
I bet.
It was the Basque waist, the huge skirt, the train.
Oh, the train.
It all came together to create this image of fairy tale romance and grandeur.
It's like every little girl's dream, right?
It's iconic.
I remember trying on my mom's slip as a wedding dress when I was little.
Oh, that's cute.
We all have those princess moments.
We do.
But beyond the fairy tale, the blog talks about how versatile the Basque waist is.
Mhm.
Apparently, it can be paired with a wide range of skirt shapes and necklines.
That's right.
Is that true, or is that just clever marketing?
Oh, it's definitely true.
Really?
The Basque waist can be adapted to so many different styles.
So, like, it's a foundation.
Exactly. You can build different looks on top of it.
So you could have a sleek modern gown or a classic ball gown, both with a Basque waist.
Precisely.
Wow.
It's all about how the designer uses that element to create a unique look.
That's amazing.
We'll explore this versatility even more as we continue our deep dive.
I can't wait. All this talk of fairy tale romance has got me thinking, though.
What's that?
What about the practical side of things?
Ah, you mean like comfort and movement?
Exactly. Wedding dresses aren't exactly known for being easy to move around in.
That's true. Some can be quite restrictive.
You'd think all the, fitted bodice would be a nightmare on the dance floor.
Well, actually, the Basque waist is surprisingly good for movement.
Really?
Yeah, it's more forgiving than some other styles.
So why is that?
That dropped waistline gives you a little extra space.
Oh, I see.
So you're not completely constricted.
So it's like holding you in but not squeezing you to death.
That's a good way to put it. It's supportive but not suffocating.
Interesting. And from a design perspective,
Mm-hmm.
that separation between the bodice and the skirt
Right.
must give designers a lot to work with.
Absolutely. You can have elaborate beading on the bodice or lace appliques, whatever you want.
And then keep the skirt simple.
You could, or you could go wild with layers and texture on the skirt too.
It's like having the best of both worlds.
It really is. There are so many possibilities.
The blog mentioned pairing it with like any skirt shape imaginable.
Pretty much.
A line, ball gown, even a sheath silhouette.
Oh, yeah. The sheath is a good one.
Now, for those of us who aren't, fashion experts,
Yeah.
what exactly is a sheath silhouette?
It's very fitted.
Okay.
Almost like a column. It skims the body from top to bottom.
So no poof.
Not really. It's very sleek and modern.
And that works with a Basque waist.
Oh, it's a stunning combination, especially if you like a minimalist look.
I can see that.
Clean lines, no embellishments, very chic.
I'm starting to see why designers love this style so much.
It's so adaptable, right?
Yeah, like a blank canvas for any bride's vision.
Exactly. And that's a big part of its staying power.
You can be anything you want it to be.
It's a classic silhouette that goes beyond any specific fashion era.
Okay, so we've talked about how flattering it is, how versatile it is, the history.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
And, of course, the princess factor.
Yeah, forget that.
But what about brides who aren't into that whole over-the-top fairy tale look?
Right.
Can you do a Basque waist in a more modern way?
Absolutely. You can.
Okay, so how would you do that?
Well, remember, the Basque waist is just a structural element.
Right. It's not the whole story.
The fabric, the details, the overall design, those are what create the final look.
So you can make it more modern.
For a more modern feel, yeah, you could choose a simple crepe fabric. A minimalist silhouette, maybe a high neckline or a statement sleeve.
So it's more about how you play with the different elements.
Exactly. You're not limited to that princessy vibe.
Unless you want to be a princess, of course.
Of course. It's your day.
And you could even play with color, right?
Absolutely. White is traditional, but more and more brides are choosing blush, ivory, even pastels.
Oh, I love blush.
A blush Basque waist dress and a light fabric would be so romantic and modern.
That's a great idea.
It's about finding what feels right for you, not just following tradition.
I like that.
Breaking the mold a little.
So, okay, we've talked about weddings a lot.
It's the topic of the day.
But what about our listeners who aren't planning a wedding?
Good point.
Why should they care about Basque waists?
Well, I think there are a few takeaways here.
Okay, like what?
First, knowing about different clothing styles makes you a smarter shopper.
Yeah, I can see that.
Even if you're not buying a wedding dress, understanding how a Basque waist or any silhouette affects your body shape is valuable.
So it's like having a secret weapon for dressing well.
Exactly. Knowledge is power.
What else?
Second, it shows how some design elements just never go out of style.
Like the Basque waist.
Yeah, it's been around for centuries.
And it's still relevant.
It strikes a balance between structure, femininity, and versatility, and that's appealing.
It's a classic for a reason.
And lastly,
Yeah.
I think the Basque waist reminds us that fashion can be beautiful and meaningful.
What do you mean?
It can tell stories, evoke emotions,
Okay.
and yeah, even make us feel like princesses for a day.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
It's not just about the clothes themselves, it's about how they make us feel.
Right. The feelings they evoke.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing how a piece of clothing can make you feel so different.
it really is.
But before we wrap up,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about weddings a lot.
Makes sense, it's Basque waist wedding dresses. Right?
True. But you mentioned the Basque waist is in other clothes too.
Oh yeah, definitely.
What about those?
Well, the takeaway for our listener is it's not just wedding dresses.
Okay.
Think about traditional Spanish dress,
Oh, right.
like flamenco,
Yeah.
those vibrant skirts,
Mm-hmm.
and the fitted bodices.
Yeah.
It's a Basque waist.
Oh, you're right. I'm picturing those red and black flamenco dresses with the ruffles.
It really defines that whole look.
And even in like modern fashion, you see it sometimes, right?
You might see a Basque waist detail on a blazer
Oh, yeah.
or a top, even a coat.
It pops up everywhere.
It's a design element that keeps coming back.
So how does that change the look? I mean, when it's not a wedding dress.
Well, it depends on how the designer uses it, of course.
Right.
But generally speaking,
Yeah.
it adds a touch of femininity and structure,
Okay.
It creates a more defined silhouette
Uh-huh.
and highlights the curves of the body.
So it's not just about looking pretty.
No, not at all.
It's about how it makes you feel.
Right, how it shapes your overall look.
Yeah, totally.
And I think that's a valuable thing to remember.
For anyone who likes clothes.
If you're interested in fashion, paying attention to those details,
Yeah.
it really changes how you see things.
It's like learning a whole new language.
I like.
The language of fashion.
And the more you learn, the more you appreciate it.
Exactly.
The nuances, the complexities.
It's fascinating.
It really is.
So we started this deep dive with a blog post about Basque Waist Wedding Dresses.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up talking about all sorts of things.
A bit of history.
Design principles.
Even psychology.
Right. It's all connected.
We went from princess dreams to the nitty-gritty of design.
And how one little detail can be used in so many ways.
Endless possibilities, really.
And hopefully our listener has learned something new.
I hope so.
A new way to look at clothes.
Whether it's for a special occasion.
Or just their everyday wardrobe.
Who knows? Maybe this will inspire someone out there.
Oh, yeah.
To create their own take on the Basque waist.
I love that. So to our listener, we say go forth and conquer the fashion world.
With your newfound Basque waist knowledge.
And until next time.
Keep those curious minds buzzing.
Bye, everyone.